February 13th, it's World Radio Day.
Through FM, longwave, digital or the internet.
Radio hands you the mic, gives you the floor, listens to you.
Radio, your anonymous access to verified information.
On the 13th of February, let's celebrate radio together with Unesco.
Welcome to the English Hour of Unesco's World Radio Day celebration. I am Andy Leve. Radio is a medium that is used to facilitate dialogue in order to attain peace and tolerance, amongst other things. But the focus this year for UNESCO is how radio is used for peace and tolerance. And on the show, we will be crossing continents and really getting a global view of how radio stations worldwide use radio as an agent of and for social change. I'm going to be joined by Lujan Haj Youssef from Radio Rosanna, which is a radio station that is focusing on the conflict-ridden Syria. And we'll also be talking to Dr. Daniel P. Aldrich, who will be giving academic feedback on his findings that were published in the article called Radio as the Voice of God, Peace and Tolerance Radio, Programming's Impact on Norms. We'll also be talking to Max Bale, who is the head of RFI's Planet Radio show, and he'll be talking about the E-pop project that he has going on there. And we'll also be listening to a radio drama piece which was produced in South Sudan that uses character role play to illustrate just how conflict resolution can be attained through dialogue. And then we'll head down south to South Africa, where we will be speaking to the managing director of Bush Radio. That's Brenda Leonard. Now, Bush Radio is the oldest community radio station, not only in South Africa, but on the African continent as well. To begin with, though, let's focus our attention internally right here at UNESCO, specifically looking at the Gender Equality Department. And I am joined now by Elspeth McOmish, who is UNESCO's program specialist for gender equality. Gender is a primary marker of social and economic stratification, and as a result of exclusion. Males, on average, are better positioned socially, economically, and politically. I want to know more, Elspeth, about what work UNESCO is doing when it comes to gender inequality.
Thanks, Sandy. Well, as you know, UNESCO has actions in 5 main areas. So that's education, the natural sciences, social and human sciences, culture and communication. We embed gender equality throughout those 5 programs. So for instance, in education, we work to promote gender equality throughout the whole education system, from the very early years of education through to higher education and on-the-job training. For instance, in terms of access, which means getting equal numbers of girls and women, girls and boys, women and men into school and into other learning institutions. In terms of content and practices, which basically means ensuring that textbooks and pedagogies are free of bias and stereotypes. And then finally, in terms of outcomes, which means that we try to help education systems to prepare all learners to participate fully in life and the world of work, including in fields where, for instance, girls are often underrepresented, such as digital skills. In some cases, we focus specifically on the needs of girls and women. For example, in some contexts, girls are kept isolated when they're menstruating, and we run special programs to help them not to miss school. We also place a lot of importance on ensuring that young people can make informed decisions about relationships and sexuality. We call this comprehensive sexuality education. So that's for education. For the natural sciences, we work to help provide strong role models for women. For instance, we recognize top and upcoming women scientists through awards and fellowships. And we also work with governments to design science, technology, and innovation policies that reflect women's experiences, and to help train teachers so that they can identify and address the particular needs and aspirations of girls who, for instance, want to go into science fields. In social and human sciences, we help governments to embed the promotion of gender equality in what we call social inclusion and transformation policies. In this regard, we place a lot of emphasis on women in disadvantaged positions, as well as, for example, transgender people. And we also develop the capacities of men and boys to become strong advocates for gender equality. In culture, one of our guiding principles is that women and men have to equally enjoy the right to benefit fully from cultural life. And so we, as you know, spearhead a number of cultural conventions. These conventions promote the inclusion of all community members to ensure that women are able to participate fully as well as men. Finally, our communication and information program runs really unique initiatives to empower women and girls, such as the gender-sensitive indicators for media, which help organizations to be able to ensure that they're developing programs that are fully gender sensitive. We also promote the safety of women journalists, for instance, because many women journalists face specific dangers and can be vulnerable, for example, to sexual assault.
And given that it is World Radio Day, how can radio be used to bring attention to issues that are related to gender inequality across the world, do you think?
Well, radios are a particularly powerful way to raise awareness of issues in our communities. They're cheaper to own and run than televisions, and they're often the main source of information and entertainment in many rural areas. So it's extremely important that they be inclusive and representative. Now, without generalizing, our experience suggests that when radio programs are run by women, they do tend to be more inclusive, more attentive to social and environmental issues, and give more space to information and debates that concern society as a whole. So we need to ensure not only that the messages that are broadcast over the radio are free of bias and gender stereotypes, but we also need to ensure that remarkable women who are dedicating their life to the advancement of our communities, for instance, top scientists, are featured so that they can really inspire the future generations of girls and women.
And a particular movement that's gotten traction in the mainstream media is the hashtag #MeToo movement, which was something that started to garner a lot of attraction on social media. So such campaigns really do advocate the need for everybody across the world to really just get involved. What do you think needs to be done even more so to spread this message, to continue the dialogue beyond just shows and platforms such as these and beyond Twitter and other social media streams?
Well, I think, as you say, this movement really did start out via social media, but radio, like social media, is an extremely important form of self-expression, which is really critical for the recovery of survivors of gender-based violence. So beyond the benefits of sharing one's experience or denouncing acts of violence, radio can really help people to empathize with one another and to federate around a common cause and take concrete action. Perhaps more than social media, radios have a unique capacity to translate global campaigns and movements such as the Me Too movement into debates that are meaningful for a very wide variety of people, because they can reach a far wider range of social actors, people of all ages and political backgrounds, unlike social media, which tends to be very tailored to the individual. So this really makes radio a very powerful medium for promoting the Me Too movement among men and women, boys and girls who have a range of political and social convictions.
And could you also just provide us with greater detail on the work that UNESCO is doing around how masculinity amplifies the marginalization of women and girls?
Okay. First of all, I need to clarify that masculinity is not a monolith. There are many different types of masculinity. Some forms of masculinity we refer to as hegemonic or toxic because they're built on a very narrow interpretation of what being a man means or is. Some forms of masculinity are harmful for all of our society, and they're absolutely an obstacle to women's empowerment. For example, aggressiveness, sexual violence, abuse of economic and political power, and irresponsible risk-taking. There are also clear links between masculinity and extreme ideologies, including violent extremism. So at UNESCO, we're among the first UN agencies to take this masculinities approach very seriously. We're working with a number of different partners worldwide, including governments and civil society, and with a focus on young people, to really identify these stereotypical and harmful forms of masculinity and to deconstruct them. These negative masculinities are harmful for everyone, including obviously men. So many men who participate in our activities have explained how their lives really changed when they realized that their violent behavior was the result of social conditioning. And by embracing a more respectful and egalitarian gender expression, they feel that they're leading healthier, happier lives, while at the same time contributing to women's empowerment.
And gender inequality also involves gender neutrality, and we need to now address individuals in the way that they feel comfortable. So perhaps you were maybe born a boy, but you identify as something else. So how do we then ensure through media, and particularly the medium of radio, that gender neutrality and the language thereof is part of the mainstream?
Yeah, well, as you know, working in radio, language is extremely powerful, and every word really matters because our language reflects our values, our shared knowledge, and our beliefs. And this is why at UNESCO we're really helping our partners to carry out a reflection on how to contribute to gender equality through language. Obviously, we're working in different languages, and so progress is at different levels, whether it's regards to our main working languages, English, French, Spanish, and so on. But we have produced guidelines for gender inclusive language, and we're using them to evaluate each publication that we produce. And perhaps more importantly for the media world in general is that we are developing programs to help train media professionals so that they realize the extent to which gender stereotypes lie behind the language that they use. We prefer to talk about inclusive language rather than neutral language. We consider that language helps shape the mindsets and the ideas of millions of media users worldwide. So by sensitizing media professionals to gender biases in language, we believe that we can help them to design messages that can truly contribute to promoting gender equality.
Elspeth, thank you very much for your time, for the hard work that you do, as well as the 30 years worth of work around gender inequality that UNESCO does as an organization. It certainly is worthy of a mention on this World Radio Day, and I do trust that those listening have been very well informed. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
February 13th, it's World Radio Day.
Through FM, longwave, digital, or the internet.
Radio hands you the mic, gives you the floor, listens to you.
Radio, your anonymous access to verified information.
On the 13th of February, let's celebrate radio together with UNESCO.